Hello, I'm Matthew Waterhouse, and this is Who on Who. Who on Who? Hello, I'm Matthew Waterhouse, and this is Who on Who.
Who on Who? The podcast devoted to the review of classic series Doctor Who DVDs in no particular order.
Fellow Doctor Who fans, and welcome to a reanimated edition of Who on Who, the podcast dedicated to the review of classic series Doctor Who DVDs in no particular order. We are your hosts, David Huey.
And I am the plucky co-host, Marty Huey.
Are you plucky today?
Plucky, a little bit.
Oh, I like that. Because last time you came off your name so strong, like, you know, I am Martin Huey, and I was like, finally he's proud of his name.
Proud of my namesake.
Yes. But plucky, I like that, okay? I feel like I should have you in a sidecar. You should have some sort of crazy, like, bat cycle thing. That's what we're driving the Gallifrey. Forget the plane.
I'm not wearing the green tights.
Oh, how about the little elf boots? You can wear the... Okay, all right. Enough Batman rhetoric here. Welcome. We are talking today about a unique classic series Doctor Who DVD, and one that I think we both feel, story rating aside, because we'll get into that later, but one that we feel is a great addition to any Doctor Who fans collection.
Yeah, definitely.
For the simple reason that they've gone in and taken two lost parts of an 8-part story and animated them. Cosgrove Hall did that. And this just came out, I think, in 2007.
I think it's either 2007 or 2008.
Yeah. And so that this is a great thing. And, of course, we are excited to review The Invasion, a Patrick Troughton story.
Yes.
We will also be talking later in the show with Daniel Hall from To Entertain.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll be interviewing him, and that will be cool. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Yes.
But beforehand, let's see, last episode, as everyone possibly remembers, that judging by the amount of feedback email we got, everybody does remember that Marty and I reviewed Remembrance of the Daleks.
Yes.
We did get a lot of really nice feedback on that.
We're still not done sifting through the bags.
I've got it here. I feel like Santa Claus or Father Christmas for all our British listeners out there. But anyway, we are going to go to the email bag. So everybody grab a nice cup of tea and sit back, because this one's going to take a minute.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Okay, this first email comes from Dave Jones in Dumfries, Virginia. Dave says, guys, listen to your last podcast, another great outing. I did want to respond to one of the pieces of feedback that you received. One of your listeners was complaining that one of you was sounding louder than the other, and she was having problems getting the right mix. I think I stumbled over the answer to the problem. Normally, I listen to your podcast over a mono output, but for some reason, I listen to it over a computer with a stereo output. Because I don't use it as much, I hadn't realized that the left speaker wasn't working until then. So I started listening, and Marty's track was coming out the good speaker, and David's was coming out just barely from the bad speaker. So for the most part, all I heard was Marty saying, uh-huh.
Which is basically my job.
Basically all you do.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes. Of course.
He says, once I replaced the speakers with a working pair, I could hear you all in your stereophonic goodness. So you might suggest that she look at the balance settings for her sound, if she's using a computer to listen, or try a different pair of speakers or headphones. Anyway, looking forward to your next show. Keep up the good work, Dave Jones. Thank you, Dave. Another Dave.
Yeah.
We were surrounded by great Daves.
Yeah.
And I don't include myself in that group. But
well, you can't
Dave.
you can't really be surrounded by yourself, so.
No, that's true. And But I think that there is some merit to what he's saying there. Technically, what I do, or what I have been doing, and some of you that are very sharp of ear will probably notice that this podcast sounds a little bit different because it's a constant, mess around with trying to get it exactly right kind of thing. I was panning my microphone all the way to the right, I believe, and yours all the way to the left because we've been told by several people that we sound similar, especially on the telephone. Yeah. And so I wanted to make sure that there was some differentiation. And I hadn't really thought about the fact that if somebody was listening with a mono input or something, that they may not be getting me. Of course, I do talk louder than you do. Yeah. I have a bigger mouth. You didn't have to agree to that so fast.
I'm not actually listening to this. I'm just, yeah. That's my job.
Things in your ear?
Nothing.
He's listening to his iPod. Just bebopping along. Sure, Dad.
Yeah, whatever
you say. But actually, this little technical glitch of panning because we're in the same room is going away.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be the last Who on Who.
Well, we've still got another month.
Over
a month. I don't move until the 20th of next month.
I was building it up to freak people out. Oh. And you ruined it for me.
Sorry.
No. Marty's moving away. He is leaving the nest to begin his life in his own little nest, finishing college. About 2.5 hours away from home, from the mothership, and we'll be coming back infrequently. So I know we're going to record at Christmas time together. Yes, because we already talked about that. And if all pans out very well, we're going to Gallifrey together. Yes, so hopefully. In February. I already booked the time off of work, and I'm planning on covering the plane tickets. So you don't have to worry about that. Because, I was telling, I need to shout out, by the way, to Craig LeBlanc if he's listening. Craig actually lives around here, and Craig and I had lunch together today. And so it was nice. Craig, hey, how's it going? Watch that hand. I hope the carpal tunnel gets better. But Craig and I were talking about Gallifrey, and I said that, last year was a little reticent because it was my first Gallifrey, and because I was sort of by myself. So I was telling your mom that I was kind of excited about the prospect of having you there because Whoies do much better in packs anyway, and we will be a pack of
especially
two.
At buffets.
Definitely. We're closing them down. There are no buffets there, but still, I think I'll be a little more at ease because it'll be my second one. I'll have you to hang out with until you diss
supposedly.
Me. Look, Dad, something shiny. You're gone. Look, the dealer room. But I think Dave Hingley's coming too.
Oh, that'll be good.
If I let him out.
Yeah, if he gets out of the bunker.
Well, he's gotten out. As we record this right now, he's gone. They have somehow put together this giant can opener thing. Yeah. And when you went down to feed him, the top of the bunker was peeled back.
The top of the bunker was peeled back, and they got out like through some system of wind tunnels. I don't know.
They're gone. That's all we know. So, of course, as you all know, we have them chipped, and so we're trying to get them tracked down now.
We're going to put up wanted posters in a couple of days.
I don't really want to do wanted. I think I want to do like Lost and Found.
Like that's what I meant. Like, Lost Hingley Brothers reward reward if found.
If brought back in good condition. Don't hurt the hands. We need the hands. But anyway, no, they're taking a vacation. At least I know Dave is, and so I'm not sure if Mike is with him or not. But I believe Dave told me that he was coming to Gallifrey this year.
That'll be cool.
So he will be part of our posse, whether he wants to or not. Forming a posse. So anyway, let's move on. There's like 100 emails, and I haven't even gotten to the second one yet. Here we go. Second one is, Hi, David and Marty. Would just like to say how much I enjoy the Who on Who podcast. Thank you. So do I. I subscribe to the, quote, usual suspects in the Who podcast universe, but I love your take on the classic series of Who. Being a massive fan of Patrick Troughton, your podcast ticks all the right boxes, and it's great to hear the opinions of the U.S. branch of Who fandom as regards the classic series. Being a very old person, then he puts 52 in parentheses, he says, I remember the Hartnell and Troughton years very well. I was one of the original Dalek Mania kids, and I can remember the very first regeneration, and can recall being very upset when Bill regenerated into Doc number 2. My reaction was, what's happened to the Doctor? And who is this silly little man with a stovepipe hat and a recorder? but Pat became my favorite all-time Doctor, and it's such a shame that most of his episodes are missing. However, due to the foresight of fans at the time who recorded the audio soundtracks on primitive tape recorders, we can still enjoy these missing episodes, and I do recommend the BBC audio CDs of these missing stories. Perhaps you can do some reviews of these stories if you have them on CD. Power and Evil of the Daleks would be...
Both of which I actually own.
My recommendations. I own Power.
I own Power and Evil, and I'm not done listening to Evil, but they're both awesome so far.
We should probably do Power sometime then.
Power, if we're going to do one, I would prefer to do Evil, honestly.
Okay, well, I have to get it, but that's fine. I have to get it. So you're going to make me pony up extra cash. Okay. He goes on to say, my name is Kevin. I live in Swansea in South Wales. You lucky man. Which is home to many locations on the new series. Keep up the good work, and I can't wait for your next installment. All the best to you both. Thank you, Kevin. Just a couple of remarks on that. First of all, you were a Dalek Mania kid. You are... Man, I mean, you were in the pneumatic tube to coolness when in the Doctor Who universe right now. To have been there at ground zero and to be able to and to remember the first regeneration and how many of the Doctor Who stories that you even vaguely remember seeing on the TV screen as you listen to the audio reproductions now.
Yeah, that some of us will probably never see.
Yeah, your memories kick in there. And the folks at 2 Entertain need to get people like you, if they're ever going to reanimate other lost episodes, they need to hook up some sort of brain sucker machine to you just to get faded images so that they know what they're working with. But thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the kind words. And our next email comes from a dear, dear lady and somebody who I think is probably... I've officially called Mary our sweetest listener. This is Mary Freer. And Mary says, hi, guys. I hope you are both well. We are. Thank you, Mary. Many thanks for the podcast. I always look forward to them arriving in my feed. Ace's bat is not a baseball bat. It's a Rounders bat. Rounders is a game similar to baseball. It's played in schools all over Britain. I played it myself whilst at school. The origins of Rounders can apparently be traced back to the Tudor area. And Mary gives me a Wikipedia link. If you want to check it out, you go to Wikipedia and just do a search for Rounders. And you can get the information there. She says, now for the pedantic bit. I'm coming out in support of the Bunker Boys. Oh, here we go.
Oh, my gosh. I remember reading this and rolling my eyes. I'm sorry.
Let me finish now. Mary's a dear lady here. I want to give her moment in the soapbox here. Mary says, an arrow fired from a longbow is much more than a pointy stick. In as much the same way as shot fired from a gun is a little more dangerous than shot thrown from someone's hand. I don't know, Mary. I got to interject here for just a second. When I lived in New York as a kid, it was a very tough neighborhood, and we used to say they didn't use guns; they inserted the bullets manually. and I don't know, but I know what you're saying there. Yeah, she says the longbow was at the time the biggest change warfare had seen, taking fighting out of only happening at close range to a much wider field of combat. An arrow fired from a longbow is a piece of wood tipped with a sharp and nasty piece of metal, which will hit the target with immense power. It is easily capable of doing what it did to the Sontaran. To me, it's typical Who that the enemy is defeated by a, quote, technology that's deemed too low to be of any interest. Arrogance is often the enemy's downfall. Loved Remembrance of the Daleks episode, even though my memories of McCoy and Ace are less than fond. This is one of the stories I remember best. I remember the first sight of a Dalek ascending stairs extremely clearly. We'll have to see what I think of McCoy when I get to him in my run-through of Classic Who. I hope I like Ace better, as Sophie Aldred comes across as a lovely woman. We get inside the actor's studio here. I've seen a few episodes and I've liked what I've seen. Keep up the good work. All the best, Mary. Why is she talking about inside the actor's
studio? Because we talked about it on the last podcast.
We did?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. I mean, come on. You know, there's a reason I make you wear that shirt that says Marty. All right? Because I don't remember this. We talked about Inside the Actors Studio?
Yeah, we talked about it for some reason. I don't remember why. It was one of the tangents.
So I don't feel bad.
No, I remember we talked about it because I just don't remember.
Were we just riffing on something?
I don't remember.
Probably?
We went off on a tangent and started talking.
We went off on many tangents.
Yeah, I don't remember them all. But no, okay. On the subject of that email, I really did not mean to just spout a whole debate on this. It was just a comment.
Well, but I think Mary's wording actually it kind of straightens everything out.
Yeah.
Because I think what you were trying to say was the Arrow was low tech.
Yes.
Okay.
The last part was basically what
Not
she said.
Primitive, but low tech.
Low tech.
And she basically said the same thing there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Mary kind of clarified what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
And thank you for that, Mary.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you for listening.
Now let's put that whole thing aside.
Let's put all that aside.
Pretend
now.
it didn't happen, and let's move on. That was 2 podcasts ago.
Until we get to Survival, where the doctor kills somebody with a Tic Tac, and we'll talk about that. No, I'm just kidding. Rounders, yes, very interesting. I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading on that. This next email comes from our buddy Wildstar.
Oh, Wildstar again.
Wildstar is working his way up the frequent contributor list here, and Wildstar writes in and says, like yourselves, Remembrance of the Daleks is my favorite McCoy episode. Truth be told, it's the only one of his I even remember. I haven't seen any other of McCoy's stories since they originally aired on PBS. While the Pertwee, Tom Baker, and Davison episodes were shown repeatedly over the years, the episodes with Hartnell, Troughton, Colin Baker, and McCoy were only shown one time here in North Texas. Now I'd like to cover a few things that you guys brought up. First, the heavy weapons Daleks and your wish for them to return. You can expect to get your wish in a way. The new iDaleks were featured in Doctor Who magazine number 421, and the article included a diagram from the art production department. In the diagram, it is shown that one of their new features is that the gun can swivel around to the back of the Dalek. I wonder if that's what the Hunchback thing's all about.
Maybe. I don't know.
That could be. Back there is a hatch that opens up, and a different gun can slide back into position to take its place. Presumably, the suction cup arm can do the same thing, although this is not pictured. Near as I could tell, none of the new attachments have actually been designed at this point. It's something to look forward to, though. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. In Remembrance of the Daleks, the Doctor just jumps into the back of the van and is immediately accepted as an authoritative part of the team. For the most part, this has gone on with every incarnation of the Doctor without any mention of it. I only bring it up now because it's so much more blatant in this particular story. I've always felt that this needs to be addressed at some point. It doesn't need to be anything overly technical. Just a line dropped by the Doctor when a companion asks him why he's always able to get even the most militaristic of people, like the group captain, to go along with his schemes. I think they've kind of addressed this with the psychic paper.
Yeah, kind of.
In the new series. I mean, now the psychic paper pretty much gives him carte blanche to go wherever
he wants.
He needs to go. And
but
so obviously some fans of the classic series who now work on the new series felt the same way, as Wildstar said, we had to figure out a way around this.
Yeah, it's just charisma, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
He's got enough charisma points.
He says, you mentioned that you missed a face-to-face confrontation between the Doctor and Davros. Personally, I liked it as it was. Their byplay reminded me of that between Kirk and Khan in Star Trek The Wrath of Khan. Give me a little Kirk right there.
What?
Khan! There we go, yeah. Now, I'm going to have to read the rest of this email as Captain James D. Kirk of the Star Trek.
How long is the email?
I was sad to hear that the only new bonus feature in the Super Ultra Mega Deluxe Edition, now with wrestling, of Remembrance of the Daleks is a single documentary. While you both said you enjoyed it very much, neither of you mentioned if you felt that it would be worth the expense to buy the new edition if I already had the old one. Kirk out. I don't know. I can't say. I've got the old one, and I honestly, Wildstar, I have no desire to go out and buy it for that.
If you have the old one, it's really not worth spending $20 and getting the new one. If you don't have it, don't try to look for the old one. Just get the new one. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing.
There you go.
So-
Okay, and he closes out the email with, he says, finally, I'd like to mention that your theory about Davros having a body again in Stolen Earth/Journey's End. A clone body doesn't make sense, since a clone would be a healthy body. Genes don't know that you've been horribly mangled in an explosion. Mm-hmm. Unless it was a very unlucky clone.
Yeah.
You know?
Walked out of the cloning tube
He
and
came
then
out,
horrible.
yes, and the Daleks went, no, it doesn't look right. Boom, shot him.
I was thinking more he walks out of the cloning tube and then a massive explosion cripples him again.
Girder falls on him. Put him in the chair. Like the first one. No, okay. He says, genes don't know that you've been horribly mangled in an explosion. The closest way that I can come up with to explain the return of Davros' body is the apparent truly bizarre events that took place during the Time War. Perhaps some series of events or circumstances altered history enough to prevent Davros from losing his body. The same quasi-explanation could be used to explain the multiple destructions of Skaro. Well, Wildstar, I think there's a lot of merit to that, and one of our other emails coming up discusses that very theory and discusses it in a similar way. And this is from Keith Baker.
Hey!
Man responsible for our theme song.
Lovely theme song.
Lovely theme song. Keith Baker rocks. Okay. Keith says, hi guys, just thought I'd drop you a line to first of all say that I love your newer format. There you go, Marty.
Yeah.
Is another one of your fans.
Another one of my fans.
You both bounce off each other in a way that only two people who know each other well can do. How long have you been wearing your hair like that?
I don't know.
Yes, we do know each other well. We
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes? I think I know
not
you.
in public.
Well, no. And we don't discuss it. On air or off air. Okay, also, what I'm here to talk about is the Davros timeline. The Davros here is the one in between Revelation, where his hand gets blown off, and Remembrance, where there is nearly nothing of him left. How can that happen? Aha! The Time War raises its ugly head. A war where people died and were resurrected to die again over and over. And the Master and Rassilon were resurrected to fight on the side of Gallifrey, which makes it totally feasible that the Dalek side would resurrect their greatest scientist at a point where he was still himself and not turning into a Dalek. Anyway, look forward to your next show, and my condolences for the brain cells that you will lose as they bleed out of your eyes when you attempt to watch The Twin Dilemma. You thought Warriors Gate was bad? It's like Citizen Kane in comparison. Cheers, Keith. We're not doing Twin Dilemma, are we?
No, I think that was...
I think we
I
scrapped
mentioned
that.
I mentioned that, but it's...
We're going to do the Daleks, and I know we're still on to do the Daleks, but...
Yeah, we'll figure something else out.
We're going to have to figure something else out, because I like my Doctor Who pain-free. Okay, here we go. This next one comes from... See, folks, they're like, good Lord.
Yeah.
Yes, see that? We read them, so... Right in.
As many as you sent in.
Keep those cards and letters coming. Okay, here we go. Dear David, this one says.
Oh, fine. I see how it is.
Oh, yeah, one guy. One guy out of the freaking avalanche of emails that, we love it now that Marty's there. It's refreshing and sexy. Okay, here we go. Dear David, very much enjoying your podcast. Thank you so much for all the effort you put into it. The voice of reason. Here, take this to your mother and show this to her.
We'll have it framed.
Yeah. Like you, I enjoy the info subtitles as perhaps the best extra of all on the DVD. I remember you saying that you are a trivia nut. Yes, I am. So I think that you would enjoy our new Doctor Who review site. It is www.sciencereview.org.uk. And if so, perhaps you would give it a mention. Steven just did, and
Hey.
I have been out there. They reviewed all of the episodes of the current Matt Smith series, and it's a lot of fun. So I definitely
they like them?
Huh?
Did they like them?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
cool.
but they really they're very in depth and very informative. So I'm going to throw out that URL again, folks. It's www.sciencereview.org.uk. So check that out, please, and thank you again, Stephen. All right, this next one comes from Brent Johnson in Raleigh, North Carolina, a neighbor.
Hey, yeah.
Brent
Neighboring
says,
state.
Hey guys, can't wait to hear your review of The Invasion. Neither can anybody else. Because the emails are starting to run here. Okay, he says, I'm currently in the midst of watching every Doctor Who story in order, and I just finished The Invasion, so I was excited to hear that it's your next review. Yes, I've even experienced the missing stories via Loose Cannon Productions. Talk to you soon, Brent Johnson. Brent, yeah, I got to look into that. But, when we started the podcast, the whole point was to do what's on DVD.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of percolating in the back of my head while we're talking about doing an audio review. Maybe as an extra thing. Or maybe some point when we get past all the DVDs.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be worth at least trying once. Even just once. Because they are basically, just like the DVDs, except with narration, obviously.
And no pictures.
And no pictures, yeah.
Yeah. And they're not on DVD.
No, they're not on DVD.
So they're really nothing like DVD.
It's Doctor Who.
Oh, good. All right. I'll give you that. Okay. All right. This one comes from... This one comes from Dr. Phil.
Hey, Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, the official show doctor of Who on Who. Dr. Philip Cerna. Phil writes in and says, love the last two podcasts immensely and your cameos on the Doctor Who podcast.
Yes.
Keep up the great banter and commentary. All the best. Philip, but we like to call you Dr. Phil, so that's what we're going to do. Thank you for that. Yeah, we were both on there.
Yeah. Not at the same episode.
You did
episode...
You did episode 10, Amy's Choice. Or not 10, episode 10, episode 7, Amy's Choice.
I don't know what episode of the DWP it was.
Well, I'm talking about which Who episode
I think it was episode 19. But anyways,
You did Amy's Choice, and then I did The Lodger with them. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. They're very accommodating and good chaps. So if you don't listen to the Doctor Who podcast, you can find them at www.thedoctorwhopodcast.com. During the season, they were doing their regular review, and then they would follow it up with a fan reaction review. And Marty and I both appeared in fan reaction episodes, along with many other podcasters and guests throughout the season. And like I said, you did the fan reaction to Amy's Choice. I did the fan reaction to The Lodger. So, give those a listen. We would appreciate that
very,
very much. Yeah. And the last one. The last email.
We've been saving this one.
A 2-pager. Well, saving it out of appreciation.
Yes,
it's Mark Nuttall.
It's Mark Nuttall,
and we can't have a feedback without Mark. So Marky Mark writes in and says, "Another great episode, gentlemen. By the way, Marty, your check bounced, so it's back to insults now. I don't even want to know what that's about. What did I tell you about writing bad paper? Okay." He says, "Baseball is very, very small over here. It's mainly played by 8 or 9-year-old girls and is known as rounders. So now we know how old Mary was when she was playing it. Most importantly, there are no aluminum cricket bats. If it is not the thwack of leather on Willow." That was the title of some Buffy / fiction, I think. The thwack of leather.
It sounds
on
like
Willow.
it sounds like an album, honestly.
It really does. Okay, it's not the thwack of leather on Willow. It simply isn't worth it. Well, I'm going to go with you there. Plugging that into American baseball, I don't think that they can play with aluminum bats in professional ball. I could be misspeaking because I'm not a huge baseball fan.
I don't watch baseball.
But the crack of a wooden bat, I mean, I got to go with you there. Okay, otherwise, he says, "I completely agree with your review. Just think that it's such a crying shame that this last season produced some terrific stories." He's referring to the last McCoy season. "And it boded very well for the future, except the BBC in their infinite wisdom denied them that future. As for The Invasion, the animation looks terrific and works very well, but I love this story. Jamie and Zoe, one of the very best TARDIS crews ever.
Oh, yes.
Unit, the Brigadier, Corporal Benton, Tobias Vaughn." Bagga. We may be doing that a lot. One of the very best Doctor Who baddies, played by Kevin Stoney, who was Mavic Chen in the Daleks' Master Plan. What a fantastic combination. Plus, you have no idea who the enemy is until the end of episode 4, when you first see the Cybermen emerge at the end of the episode. One of my earliest memories is of the Cybermen coming out of the manholes in London. For a 3-year-old, this was real. This was scary. There were manholes on my street. Did that mean that there were Cybermen lurking under my feet? This has a lot of the features that we would expect from a John Pertwee story. Action-packed, loads of gadgets and explosions. This is probably my all-time favorite Doctor Who story, certainly in my top 10. Mark Nuttall. Mark, thank you so much. Again,
Yeah.
it just wouldn't be email feedback without you,
It's
buddy.
just strange without...
You know?
Yeah.
You need to come to Gallifrey and be part of our posse.
We're
Or at
forming
least
a
send
posse.
emails every day. So, anyway. Well, that brings us to the end of our email feedback.
Yes.
And we will be right back after these messages for our new segment of High Speed Reviews.
Yeah.
The problem we've got is how do we do a promo for Professor Dave's Ark in Space featuring Lilibet the Wonder Girl?
Well, we sort of talk about literature and pop culture,
TV,
occasionally Doctor Who,
bits of news.
good listener feedback. We do like our listeners.
I'm not sure what they think about us.
They're usually complimentary. I get called perky a lot.
I get called miserable.
Oh. We're a little bit all over the place, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's good, though.
People seem to like it.
Yes. And they come along for the ride.
Every 2 weeks.
And we have all kinds of people come and talk on the Facebook group.
We got
even
an
have
email account. Yeah. And we're on iTunes.
We are.
Yeah, and Libsyn. We're on Zune. I've got no idea what that is. It sounds like some sort of water ride that involves sitting in a tyre. Ride the Zune. But that's it. We just sit around and we talk nonsense.
And occasionally the end of the world.
Oh, yeah, there's a conceit about the end of the world.
But it's good fun.
It is fun. You should come and try us. iTunes, Facebook, Libsyn, Zune.
Etc.
By the power of Zune. Professor Dave's Ark in Space. It's not bad. Yeah, that'd do.
Okay, now it is time for our new popular segment, Marty's high-speed review of New Who.
We assume it's popular. Nobody has said if they like it or not.
Nobody has so far, but no news is good news.
Yeah,
right?
I guess.
Nobody's told us to stop.
That's true.
You
This
know.
is actually the last high-speed review because the new season is off right now.
I know, it makes me sad.
It is a little
It
sad,
really-
yeah,
but-
because we
but-
just started this.
We'll be quicker on the go on season 6. We'll talk a little bit about that here in just a second, and of course we're going to review the Christmas special, but I don't think we're going to do that in high speed. We'll probably do that at 33 1/3 speed. Kind of kick back and relax.
At 33,
because post Christmas we're going to be all doped up on sugar and
turkey
and everything
lasagna
else.
and all. I would like to bring the high speed reviews back in some form in the off season. I haven't decided on how yet though, but we'll figure it out.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just some way.
High speed review of nothing. Click.
And we're done.
How could that be 10 seconds? You didn't say anything. No. Okay, here we
say
go.
nothing for a long time.
So we're doing a high speed review of. Well, hold on. Before I do that, let me play the Pertwee bit.
Anything else I shouldn't know?
Yes, they move like lightning.
There we go.
All right.
It's not the
I like
same
that
without it. Okay, now let's go ahead and get ready. We are doing the last 3 episodes, which is The Lodger.
Yes, not all at once.
No, I know. The Lodger, The Pandorica Opens, and The Big Bang.
Big Bang. 2
Okay.
segments.
Spoiler free.
Yes. Well, yes. Absolutely spoiler
Yes.
free. I've already got that down. We're doing The Lodger first, and then we're doing the 2-parter. And, so I'm
Okay,
ready.
now you ready?
Yes.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Now remember last time you did the 2-parter first.
Mm-hmm.
And then followed it up with a 1-part, and your 1-part was still longer than the 2-parter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to try to beat my records this time.
All right. Don't go crazy. All right. Ready?
Yes.
And for The Lodger, go.
The Lodger, honestly, I thought was one of the funniest episodes I'd seen of the season. I really like seeing Matt Smith be able to play around with the character on his own without Amy Pond, cramping his style. So it was a really good episode. I'd have to give it probably 5 out of 7. I just pulled a Steve from TARDIS Tavern there.
Yeah, you did. 7?
I pulled a 5 up in my head, and then I thought, out of what? Out of 7,
Yeah,
let's go.
5. Yeah, I can't give it a 5 out of 5. But I just want to add that one of the things that I think worked the best for this episode was that Amy was not there, the TARDIS was not there, the Doctor was out of his element, was not using the sonic screwdriver. The only This is aired in America, so I can be a little more in depth here. But the only criticism I've heard from a lot of the other podcasts is, well, we don't understand why the Doctor didn't just rush upstairs and face whatever was up there immediately. But he said as much in the episode that he didn't know what was up there, first of all. Granted, that's never stopped him before, but Amy's trapped in the TARDIS in the time vortex. And if he goes up there and screws up...
If he runs up there and a Dalek's waiting at the door, just zaps him, that's it.
Yeah,
Show's
he's
over.
dead and she's lost forever.
Trapped forever.
Right.
So
I was able to bypass that.
Hang on, what's the time before you delete it?
18.13 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it goes quick.
I guess.
You know?
I was expecting it to be a lot shorter than that. I thought that was a quick one.
And that's good. 18 seconds.
Was it? It's not as good as
the Podshock guys 3 hours to review that episode. All right. Sorry, guys, if you're listening, by the way. Okay. All right. This last one, high-speed review of The Pandorica Opens and The Big Bang, the 2-part season finale. Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
This was the greatest series finale I've ever seen since Doctor Who came back in 2005.
Wow.
What?
5.72 seconds.
I think that's the one.
For the win. I'm leaving that number up on the stopwatch. I have to confess something too, by the way. I brought the stopwatch down to do this, right?
Yeah.
There's a stopwatch on my iPhone. I feel like an idiot. I didn't know that. Your mom points that out to me. Hey, system engineer, come here. There's a stopwatch on the iPhone. I'm over here analog style with rubber bands and all this crazy stuff. Anyway,
it's more pressure. It's more pressure analog style because I can actually see it.
You can hear the beep, and I'm like a track coach. Go. So anyway, cool. And I agree with you.
Oh yes.
And so many really promising things coming that we don't want to go into because it hasn't aired.
It hasn't aired in America. I don't agree with people saying they didn't understand the episode though. Just a lot, the Big Bang. I hear a lot of it, but
I think a lot of people want Doctor Who to be. I think I almost get the impression like some Doctor Who fans would be more at ease with the show that they love if it was more hardcore science fiction.
Yeah.
And Doctor Who's not hardcore science fiction. It never has been.
No.
It's a show...
Science fantasy is the way I've heard it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a show about a man in a magic blue box that goes, around. It's a TARDIS. Okay, fine. You can call it whatever you want to. It's not hardcore science fiction. Mm-hmm. Ask a scientist, and they'll tell you. They've never talked about paradox except maybe in Father's Day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just crazy. I say, hey, look, this is... this was a great story.
Oh, yeah.
From a storytelling perspective, it wraps up so many things. You're going to want to go back and watch every episode again.
Oh, yes.
And Chip from the 2 Minute Time Lord summed it up best. He said, this was the series that was designed for the box set.
Uh-huh.
And I agree 200%.
I will be getting whenever it's available.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'll be on my Christmas list.
Just one more thing I wanted to say about the people that overanalyze the episode a little bit, I would say, is when I was on the DWP, I don't know if it was on air or if it was off air, but Trevor said something about that. He said, people will look at a candy bar wrapper and they'll, take all the numbers and the letters and they'll try to assign what they mean to them, but nobody takes the time to just eat the damn candy bar.
Yeah. Enjoy the candy bar. Sure.
Just enjoy it for what it is. It's Doctor Who.
Right,
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Let's move on.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's go ahead at this point. Before we get into the DVD review, I promised the listeners that I was going to give them a review of the book, The Mythological Dimensions of Doctor Who.
Ah, yes.
Now, this book is, if you are unfamiliar with it, The Mythological Dimensions of Doctor Who is a series of essays that were compiled and put into book form that talk about the show that we love very, very much and talk about it in regards to mythology. You have to even kind of play a little footloose with mythology because they do some comparisons in here to modern mythology, Batman, things like that. It's I don't want to go into too much detail. I could spend 2 hours talking about the book. I will say this. If you're a Doctor Who fan, okay, you will enjoy this book, and that is at any level, whether you are a casual Doctor Who fan or you are a hardcore building your own TARDIS-shaped tool shed in the backyard Doctor Who fan. You will enjoy the essays in this book. You will enjoy the discussions. And speaking of discussion, the big thing about this book that is really, really cool, if you have friends and family who are Doctor Who fans, is this will open up dialogue that you've never even thought about before. And will give you, like, you'll read an essay and go, oh, you're looking for the closest Doctor Who fan that you can go have a drink with, and just sit down and over a cup of coffee, cup of tea, or whatever, name your poison, and discuss some of the ideas. It really stimulates your thinking about this show that we all care very much about and love on many levels. And it doesn't have to be. It's not some treatise on different ideals or anything. I think people just need to read it and give it a look. So you can get it on Amazon. It's very reasonably priced, and just look it up. It's called The Mythological Dimensions of Doctor Who. It is a well added addition to any Doctor Who fans
collection.
So that's all I'm going to say about it. Enough said.
I didn't get to read the book myself.
Nope. And
I didn't know what a book was until about 2 weeks ago.
Well. I may share. I may not.
I spent 45 minutes trying to get it in the DVD player, an hour trying to get it back out of the DVD player.
That's why those pages are all bent up. Well, speaking of DVDs, let's go ahead and set the TARDIS controls here for November 2nd, 1968. It was just but 2 years old when this thing was on TV. And we are off to London and other locations in black and white.
Yes.
Hang on. Here we go. Okay, we are here. This is The Invasion. Like we have said, and all of you are very much aware, this is a Patrick Troughton second Doctor story with two companions, Jamie, Fraser Hines,
yes,
and Zoe, played by Wendy Padbury. The story is, did I say it was an 8-parter? It's an 8-parter.
It's an 8-parter,
yeah. It's an 8-part story. Unique in the fact that episode 1 and episode 4?
Yeah.
Episode 1 and 4, yes.
Episode 1 and 4.
Episode 1 and 4 had to be animated because they were missing. Mm-hmm. All the rest of the episodes have survived. So, in order to complete this as a DVD, they were animated. They used the soundtracks of off-air recordings that fans had made. And did a absolutely phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. I mean, just, like...
I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Just speaking about the animation, like, wow, I love that. And
one of the cool things is, I don't know, I'm not sure. I was thinking about it when I was watching it, how the first episode was animated.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if the reception would have been any different. Probably not, because Doctor Who fans are extremely loyal. But I'm wondering if it would have been a little more of a letdown if the first episode was live action, and then you had to go into an animated episode.
Just go. Just remember from episode 3 to episode 4. I mean, that was coming off live action, going to animated.
Yeah, but by then you've already seen animated.
I guess, yeah.
You know, I guess my point is that was the animation less of a letdown because you hadn't seen anything live action yet,
right?
You know what I mean? And not saying that it would be, because I think Cosgrove Hall, who did Danger Mouse, they did was it Wind in the Willows? I think they did, or Watership Down. I don't remember what.
Did they do Watership Down?
I don't know.
I think I've seen that movie.
They did a phenomenal job.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the color, the character design, everything. I mean, the set design. They used it all, and I mean, they used everything they had to do. And what a Herculean task to do!
Oh
this.
yeah.
I mean, for 2 episodes out of an 8-part story. I mean, granted, they had the other 6 episodes to use as reference, but still, there was the canoe bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they had any still shots of that or not.
I think what they did was they took the shot of them leaving in the canoe and just kind of went
Just
from
kind
there.
of winged it from there.
Yeah, kind of had to.
It was written by Derek Sherwin, and it was directed by the wonderful Douglas Camfield. And Douglas Camfield is fast approaching my favorite Doctor Who director. I mean, this guy is he does phenomenal things with what he's given. And we'll talk a little bit more when we do the DVD extras about how highly he's praised by actors, by production team, by everybody. Talks about Dougie. Everything's about Dougie. And he worked on Inferno, and until he got sick. I think Inferno was the story he was working on when he got sick. But his wife was in Inferno. Really? Yeah. And she was an actress. And I mean, just, wow. I mean, some of the shots he gets. It's classic Doctor Who, Cybermen. Everybody can close their eyes and picture the manhole covers flying open and the Cybermen crawling out. And once from the documentaries and sit and watch, there were only 6 guys in Cybermen costumes.
Yeah, I remember that.
In any scene, you only see at most 6
Which
Cybermen.
is still to this day I find to be very clever camera work.
Oh, it's a hell of a good job. You're literally, they're talking about hundreds of Cybermen, and in your mind you're going, wow. I mean, they got a bunch of guys there, but there's only 6 at any one given time.
It's the same thing they used to do where they would have a horse run by the camera and they just loop that 3 times.
Yeah, and I know they do similar things with the Daleks too, because they only have so many props that they can use. But still, I mean. Douglas Camfield just knocks the directing out of the park. Let's discuss a little bit about the story.
Yes.
The TARDIS is out in space. It comes back together again.
Yeah, this takes place, I believe, right after Mind Robber.
Right after Mind Robber, yes. Right on the tails of the Mind Robber, which you just got, didn't you?
I did. I haven't watched it.
Haven't watched it yet.
I got like a bunch of Doctor Who DVDs in the past couple of weeks I haven't had a chance to look at yet.
Yeah, Mind Robber's good. I don't own Mind Robber, but I did rent it one time from the store you work at.
Yeah.
And watched it, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was a little off-putting with the different actor playing Jamie.
Yeah, I read about that, but I needed a Troughton to complete, my every Doctor.
Should have gotten this one.
I thought about it, but the Mind Robber was cheaper, and
okay.
I'm perpetually broke. So.
Right. I won't argue at that point. So the TARDIS comes together out in space. They barely get away from a missile that's fired at them from the backside of the moon and from a spacecraft. They end up materializing on Earth. There's a couple of blown circuits that they need to get fixed.
Right.
So they leave the TARDIS, which they can't see at that point. They step out of the TARDIS and it's invisible.
Yeah, there was some... No. What happened was the Doctor turned it invisible.
Oh, that's right.
Because
he did,
because he didn't want anybody to stumble across it.
Right. I don't want anyone to think I'm going senile. What happens is typically I'll watch these things over a span of like 4 or 5 days. And so... a lot of times I'll get to the end, and that's fresh in my mind, and I may miss a little detail.
I'll watch it almost the day after we get done recording the podcast, and then with this one, we just one thing after another. We just haven't had a chance.
Yeah, it's been over a month. Actually, it's been a month and a couple of days as we're recording this right now.
Yeah, so it's been over a month since I've seen this, but that's why I take notes.
But you're younger than I am, so okay. And it's good that it worked out that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, could I be your dad? No, I don't know that I could.
No, maybe not.
Not legally. Not biologically.
Let's get back to Doctor Who.
Yeah, let's get back to Doctor Who.
It's confusing.
Okay,
let's move on.
Anyway, our heroes are quickly... they go to visit a professor friend of theirs to see about getting some help replacing some burnt-out circuits. That professor has gone on to America. and there's a new professor living there with his niece, who's pretty hot, by the way. I don't mind saying.
Yeah.
And she's a fashion photographer, and her uncle, Professor Watkins, I believe his name is, is being held at this International Electromatics. Kind of a shady organization run by a gentleman named Tobias Vaughn, who has the coolest accent.
I love his accent.
He's got a toady. I don't even want to call him a sidekick because he's not. He's really a toady.
He's an underling, Packer.
Yeah. and the way he says it, just like that. You worry too much, Packer. You know, Packer. I mean, so I think flying all the way to Gallifrey in February, we'll check off the entire flight through. Packer.
The flight attendants.
Cloud Packer. Overhead baggage, Packer.
I'd like a soda, Packer.
So, if you come to Gallifrey and you see other podcasters beating the crap out of us in the lobby, that's probably why. Show your loyalty to Who on Who. Jump in. Because some of those guys are Canadian and they get a little rough. But anyway.
I wouldn't mind a t-shirt that said just Packer on it because only like a few people would get it.
With his picture.
Oh, that would be good.
Oh, yes. A Tobias Vaughn t-shirt that just says Packer. Somebody get on that.
Hangley Brothers, if you're listening, get on that.
Yeah, really. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about Packer a little bit. The guy's a bully. I mean, he's your classic, jackbooted bully. But I have to talk about something that happens in episode 3.
Yes.
The Doctor and Jamie totally pull one over on this guy, and they get away from him in an elevator or a lift for our British friends. And Packer comes completely unwound.
Just loses it.
I mean, down to the physicality of it. The guy,
his hair is all messed up.
The hair gets all disheveled.
Just screaming.
The voice. I mean, the whole thing. The guy just totally loses it. And this is when it hit me that we're dealing with a caliber of acting that sometimes we don't get on Doctor Who, but this time, I mean, these guys were all playing their A game. They definitely. And
that's about the point. That's about the point where the story really kicked off for me, because everything up to it was just him. He was going to the place, he was talking to a computer, he was running around doing this, doing that, and then all of a sudden, they get captured and the elevator scene happens, and then I was like, "Whoa, action's happening! What's going on now?"
Yeah, right, exactly. The other interesting thing of note is that this is the story that introduces us to Unit.
Units, yes.
And it brings back the former Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, who's now
the Brigadier.
The way God intended him to be. Retired or not, I don't care. He's still the Brigadier.
He's the Brig.
And the Brig is like snappy in this one. He's great. He's young. He's got the fake mustache. He's looking good in the uniform.
Did he eventually grow a mustache for the show, or did he just always wear the fake one?
I think he always wore the fake one. I mean,
really? Because later on, it looked real.
Later on in life, he grew a real one. Excuse me, I just sneezed. We'll have to edit that out.
Okay.
Later on in life, he grew around. I think he's wearing a beard and a mustache.
See, right now, I've seen pictures of him. He looks nothing like what he used to. But
I think he does.
I see it. I see it in his eyes, but not in the rest of his face.
Well, I mean, he's a good deal older, but
obviously.
But no, he was on the Sarah Jane Adventures, and I
still need to catch up on those.
And maybe it's if you see him and you hear him talk, because
maybe.
He's the Brig. I mean, he's still something. He's not gonna snap to and shout for
5 rounds rapid.
5 rounds rapid. And Benton's in this one. First story with Benton, he's a corporal, which ties in later to the second Doctor's appearance in The Three Doctors when he addresses Sergeant Benton as Corporal Benton. And he says, "Well, it's Sergeant now," So that I thought that was kind of neat. Continuity is something with Doctor Who that's always kind of played fast and loose with. But when they do get it right, it's really cool.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
As fans, when we sit
there,
and go,
it's time travel stuff. It's always cool.
I mean, it's nice. And so so we get the introduction of Unit. We get the explanation of what Unit was formed for, the Brigadier. And what happened to Jimmy?
Jimmy
was the captain. that was flirting with the fashion photographer. And he's through the whole story here.
They got married, didn't they? At the end?
No,
Pretty sure.
No, they didn't get married.
They went out or something.
No. But I guess my question is, how come Jimmy wasn't brought back for the unit stories with Pertwee? I like Jimmy, and I like hearing the Briggs say Jimmy. Jimmy?
Jimmy?
You know? It's not as good as
Packard.
but, it's close. We've just lost 25 listeners. I can hear them click.
These guys are getting on my nerves.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, but unit's there, the Briggs there, and they form a quick alliance with the Doctor, which I like. We don't find out, like it was mentioned in that email from Mark. I think it was Mark Nuttall that said it in his email. That
I don't remember. There were so many.
There's literally a pile on my floor here. But somebody said we don't find out until episode 4 that the enemy is the Cybermen, and I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
That they held off. Of course, we all know the Cybermen are in the story.
That's just how they did it.
That's how they did it back then.
Yeah.
Could you imagine 4 weeks in? You've invested 4 weeks of your life
4 weeks going, what's going on here?
And the tail end of the story,
Cybermen.
boom, there he is. And that brings up a point about the Cybermen that I wanted to talk about, too. I like how every time in the classic series that you see the Cybermen, they look slightly different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're
modifying. They're
constantly upgrading.
Yeah, I like that. And so, we don't see that so much with the Daleks. A little bit here and there, a coat of paint.
Well, the Daleks mostly have formed what they want to look like, and so they must all look like that.
Right, I guess.
So,
yeah, I guess.
Except for obviously technical upgrades when they need it. I don't think they do it, out of... They do it out of necessity, not out of just because. And I think the Cybermen do it just because.
Oh, well, see, I sort of got the impression that the Cybermen are upgrading.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They're upgrading because they can upgrade, whereas the Daleks upgrade because it's necessary to upgrade.
Okay. All right, I got you.
Because I haven't seen 10th Planet, but if I remember correctly, it was similar to what happened in Age of Steel, I think. Except for the alternate dimension thing, it was still, it was people that were constantly upgrading, and then they just upgraded past a fleshy shell.
Yeah. So, what happened was it was the race of people that just wanted to live past their physical life, and so they became, they started replacing parts with cybernetic parts.
Yeah, and eventually
became the Cybermen.
Yeah, so it's just constant upgrading.
But looked nothing like what they look like.
Well, obviously
here, but also. Freaky in their own right. I mean, 10th Planet is that one story that you just want somebody to just animate the last episode and put it out.
Even with stick figures, we don't care. Just put it out.
Yeah, we'll buy it. A little flip book, something. It would be really nice. And, of course, we've talked about that many, many times.
At length. Anyways, back to Invasion.
Yes, back to Invasion. But the story moves along well. There is a lot of action. There is a lot. It's all based on Earth. UNIT has a real strong role in the resolution of this story.
Oh yeah,
they blow a lot of things up.
They actually got British military in to help act out that scene.
Yeah, that was
I
great
love
too.
that.
Yeah. But I mean, just the fact that story-wise, they didn't sit back on their thumbs and wait for the Doctor to come up with some magic pill.
Right.
The Doctor guided them, but they used their military technology to blow up not only the cyber ship, but the bomb as it was coming down from orbit and several other things. But we digress a little bit. Tobias Vaughn, who's in charge of International Electromatics, is already been cyberized.
Yeah.
As for lack of a better word.
Actually, I made a note of that because Watkins, I think is his name.
Yeah.
When we find out, Watkins says, I'd kill you if I had the chance, and Tobias Vaughn did that cliche thing where he hands him the gun. It's like, well, if you want to, go ahead. And I put down on my notebook, literally, why don't they just ever shoot him? Because, they always just chicken out and give the gun back. And then he actually shoots him.
Well, he slaps him.
No, he doesn't. He shoots him.
No, Tobias Vaughn.
Oh yeah, Tobias Vaughn slaps him,
and
then and I thought he's still going to chicken out. And bam, he shoots him.
You don't slap a man. I mean, I'm sorry. You slap a man, you're going to get shot. So, I was with the professor there, but Yeah, he put like 3. I mean, he didn't just shoot him; he shot him like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, a bunch of times. Then Tobias Vaughn's just standing there laughing because he's got the cybernetic parts. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, we eventually we find out that Vaughn is trying to use a machine that the professor has invented, which will project emotional states, and he wants to build up a supply of these machines so that once the Cybermen have taken over the world, he has an ace up his sleeve to take care of the Cybermen, and he can rule the world,
right?
On his own. So there's a lot of cloak and dagger, a lot of trickery going on back and forth there, which makes Vaughn a very interesting, calculating character. I was sorry to see him go at the end, because he would have been a great return villain.
I think he does return in a Big Finish story.
Does he really?
I think so. I think I read that somewhere.
Does he say Packer?
No, Packer's not in it, unfortunately.
Packer doesn't come back.
No,
Packer packs
it's
in.
quite sad. There was something I wanted to bring up. Well, 2 things. I just noticed in my note. On part 3, I wrote this down under part 3. He's when Packer's flipping out and he's using his little telecommunicator watch he uses all the time.
Yeah,
that's a very ineffective communicator, because he's got to talk into it and then he's got to put it up to his ear to hear what the guy's saying and then come back down to talk. And it'd be like, I mean, could you imagine trying to use a phone like that? And just it wouldn't work.
Well, you know what? For fans at the time that this was made, and I could be fudging my timelines a little bit. Dick Tracy was a very popular comic strip. Dick Tracy had the watch, the video watch, and,
right?
So I would imagine that at the time, the idea of a phone being the size of your wristwatch was
insane,
total fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but when they were climbing up the elevator shaft, they wrote "Kilroy was here."
Yes.
Which isn't related to Doctor Who at all, but it was also in Warrior's Gate, so
yes. I
had to write that down.
Fraser Hines talks about that in the documentary. He wrote it.
Yeah,
so, which is cool. I wish I'd have known that when I met him, because I would have given him chops for that one. That was a pretty slick move. And then they wanted to add a bunch of other things, and finally Doug.
They wanted to add the guy peering over the wall.
Yeah, and Douglas Canfield said no. All right, I'm going to give you Kilroy, and that's it. Now everybody cool it. Of course, you have to remember that they were filming most of this in a Guinness factory. I mean, that's just like, putting a can of gas next to some dynamite, because those guys were getting totally bombed, between shots. So, okay, if you don't need me for 15 minutes, I'm going to go upstairs and play cards.
Play cards, sit around quietly, think, read a book. Right. Definitely not drink.
Yeah, no, of course not. I'll have tea. Malt tea. With a head on it. Anyway, but one of the things I wrote down was in episode 6. Mm-hmm. I know we're kind of jumping around a lot, but I'm assuming most of our listeners have seen this adventure. Episode 6, the professor's assistant that gets killed by the Cybermen in the sewer. You remember that? Remember the squirrely guy with the glasses? He was Watkins' assistant.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, he gets taken out by the Cybermen. His name is Gregory. Mm-hmm. So it just seemed. I know from watching the documentary that wasn't the original death scene for him. Mm-hmm. But once you know that scene just seems like it was just slapped in there. And it's not even well edited.
The first time I watched that, I thought, "Who is this? And why are they showing us
this?"
They're
standing in Vaughn's office, right? And the guy's clearly freaked out that he knows he's going to die.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you see him running down the sewer, and a bunch of Cybermen wipe him out. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't.
I didn't know who that was at first, and I thought, why are they showing us this scene? And then I kind of made the connection.
Yeah,
but.
So I thought that was a little sloppy and a little distracting.
I thought it probably would have. It almost would have been better if he died off screen.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let your mind fill in the blanks.
Something. Yeah.
I had something written down for. Never mind. No, that's part 7. I'll wait on that.
Well, we can move on to part 7.
Zoe changed clothes in part 7. Did you notice that when they were in the missile base? or in the
when she went to the missile
yeah, there was
base
like no transition or anything. She was just in her dress, and then bam, she's in her space suit.
She was in the dress, and then remember they got on the unit. They were of course on the unit plane, and they had to drop off the guys that were going to Russia, and then they got back on the plane, and then got dropped off where they were going.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, she had the catsuit on, which is the infamous Mind Robber catsuit. You haven't seen Mind Robber.
I haven't seen it yet.
There's a scene of her laying on the TARDIS console that right now, if Dave Cooper is listening to the podcast, someone's having to take the paddles to his chest because it's one of Dave's favorite all-time sexy Doctor Who scenes. So, breathe, Dave, breathe. Stay with me, brother.
It's okay.
So anyway,
and then also, sorry, go ahead.
No, so go ahead.
And then also, they had anti-missile missiles.
I love it.
I was like, what?
It's a little ironic.
Like, did they just keep those around just in case?
Excuse me, sir. Yeah, what are those? Those are anti-fire matches. I mean, yeah, this doesn't make much sense. But anti-bullet bullets.
I thought to myself, wouldn't those just be missiles?
They are. Yeah. But
aren't those just missiles? No, they're missiles specifically designed to shoot down other missiles.
Right.
Okay, let's waste them. Money on that.
I did like that they used Zoe's mathematical ability.
Oh yeah, great.
To some degree, they gave her something to do more than just walk around with the model.
I've always liked that she had such a great mathematical ability. Just yeah,
and she seems so nonplussed about it.
Oh yeah,
she doesn't brag it up. She doesn't wear a gold star. No, sorry, that's not nice. Shame. And after he gave us a promo,
I know.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. I already played his show promo, but Dave Keep from Professor Dave's Ark in Space, he's the one that got us the Matthew Waterhouse promo from the Matthew Waterhouse event.
Thank you,
Dave. That was just so cool. That's the first legitimate celebrity plug that we have for our podcast, because the David Tennant one that I played many episodes ago was actually fake, and I cobbled it together from a British radio show called Who on Who, and I just basically swiped it because I figured they co-opted our show name, so I was going to take David Tennant's plug. But anyway. But yeah, that was our first official one, and so that was really awesome. Thank you for that.
I don't remember when this was in episode 7. What was the Doctor doing? I can't remember.
The Doctor was trying to figure out the circuit in episode 7. Oh, let me think now.
But I remember
that was in 6 because Jamie and the two girls went to the sewer, and that's when Unit fought the Cybermen. Episode 7, I think, is when he figures out finally that they are emotional circuits.
No, I just remember him walking somewhere and stopping to flip a coin.
And yeah. He uses the sewer to get to Vaughn because he decides it's time to go have a face to face with Vaughn. Yeah.
I saw that and I thought, what is this Warrior's Gate? Because Adric did that all the time. I was like, why is he doing that?
I had one way or the other to go and decided he was,
I guess. I don't know. Unless he's just trying to freak people out.
Yeah,
That's all I had for episode 7.
Okay.
Did you have anything to add to episode 7?
No, I mean, the story wraps up kind of in an interesting way in episode 8 because Tobias Vaughn, the big bad baddie, actually helps the Doctor. And he helps the Doctor in a way that is not out of character, which I thought was very good writing on Sherwin's part. He helps the Doctor only because they both want the same thing for two very different reasons.
Right.
He's angry at the Cybermen and very much, hates them and wants to see them all dead.
Right.
And Tobias Vaughn just thinks they owe him money. No, I'm just kidding. That was Tobias Vaughn. And the Doctor wants to save humanity. So they do end up working together and trying to get to the radio tower to stop the signal so that the bomb can't be dropped from the cyber mothership.
Mm-hmm. So, which was a great scene, also.
It was a good scene.
Them running around with the emotional thing, and then Unit coming in with the British Army.
Oh yeah, and
perfect,
blowing stuff up. Here's the thing I don't get though. All right, they threw grenades.
Uh-huh.
Then they get out the machine guns.
Uh-huh.
Machine guns clearly are not effective. Okay, then they wait for the Brigadier to yell, bazooka, right? And the guy comes out there with a bazooka and shoots. Next thing you know, they're back to machine guns again.
They only have so many rounds for the bazooka.
Well,
you
yeah,
can't
but
just
I'm
waste
thinking,
them all.
okay, we've already proved that the machine gun is ineffective. At this point, you take a page from the old Superman TV series and you throw the gun at the Cyberman. Because the bullets aren't working.
Just in case the gun is his one weakness.
Yeah. The bullets bounce off his chest, chuck the gun at him. But he always ducked it. He always ducked the gun. So that pop was going to hurt, you know. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I always I liked in this episode how the Brigadier would just yell a random weapon and people would just launch it. Like,
oh yeah.
In episode 6, he was standing in front of the sewers and he pulled Jamie out and he just screamed, "Benton, grenade!" And then Benton just popped off screen and just dropped her grenade down the.
No, that was Jimmy. That was the captain.
He screamed Benton.
No. Benton dropped the grenade, but that was Jimmy that screamed.
Oh, that was Jimmy?
Yeah, the Brig was back on this. He wasn't going anywhere near that. You don't make Brigadier by being stupid. You chaps go. I'll be right here.
Okay, I forgot.
But it was Jimmy. But Benton was cool. I mean, he lobbed a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar three-pointer from the front of the, right in. And it was nothing but sewer. I mean, right in, no backboard.
Boom.
Boom, smoke everywhere.
Oh, I had to giggle a little bit at that line.
So I need to,
that was funny.
If John Levine is at Galley 22 and someone thinks to ask him, he lives out there. And so he usually comes. John Levine's always good for 45-minute diatribe on anything. What are you drinking, John? And 45 minutes later, but ask him about tossing that grenade into there because I know he was always very reticent to use firearms or anything like that because he didn't have any training, and so I'm curious, if the pyrotechnic guys, and I bet you he has a very clear memory of it too. Mm-hmm. But that would be fun to ask him about that. Great scene, great ending. The scene where they realize that it's a matter of time now until the cyber mothership gets within range of the Russian rocket.
It's all very tense.
And it's played for a lot of tension. The camera locks onto the clock. Mm-hmm. And it fades, and then you see a different clock, but you see that the minute hand has moved only 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's played very well, very well. Yeah.
And then the ending was I wouldn't. That's not really the ending. The very end of the episode where they're leaving, I still thought it was good technically for back then, like technology back then.
Oh yeah, the invisible
when he leans up against the invisible artist.
Yeah.
And half his arm disappeared. I was like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, they did that with I guess they had a pole there for reference.
And then they just overlaid it.
Yeah. I thought that was good. It seemed to almost lighten the mood of the story a little too much.
I don't know. I think at that point it needed to be lightened because the Cybermen were gone. So
Yeah, they were. And,
it's time to be happy.
Yeah. Oh, but I think they had enough reason to be happy without it becoming too silly. Not saying that was too silly, but
I can give him that one scene just because they're. It's over.
True.
I have to say, though, we didn't talk about this part. My favorite part of this, honestly, one of my favorite parts of this was in episode 4 at the just that whole episode where they're rescuing Zoe and that blonde girl that I can't remember her name.
With the helicopter?
With the helicopter, and they're dodging bullets and all that. And it was awesome. I would have loved to seen the actual film part of that. But
True.
even the animation was really good.
Oh yeah, the animation was great. Well, they played it so smart to keep the animation in grayscale, so that it literally is seamless. I mean, it goes from they could have just as easily, like for instance, let's say the Macro Terror or some Doctor Who story out there that no parts exist to.
Right.
Okay, Power of the Daleks. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to animate that, you may as well animate it in color, right?
True.
And just go buck wild. I mean, whatever you want to do, as long as it's within continuity.
The Doctor wears a pink shirt in this one.
Yeah, I don't do that, but you know what I mean. But I think that the completist, the Doctor Who fan, somebody like me, would embrace it easier if it was still in grayscale because I know that episode's supposed to be in black and white.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I would almost prefer it if they do end up doing that.
Yeah.
Like, evil or power. I would prefer if they did it in grayscale.
I agree with
because
that.
when I think Troughton, I don't think color. I think grayscale.
Not until Three Doctors.
Not until Three Doctors.
Three
Otherwise,
Doctors
it's screwing up continuity.
Yeah, until you get the spearhead from space, nothing was in color.
Exactly.
Even real life. I know. I've got pictures of when I was a kid. Okay, and they're all in black and white. So everything was in black and white. All of a sudden, beep, there it was.
When Wizard of Oz came out, like, the color just came over in a rainbow.
There you go. There was light. It was wonderful. Good times. But anyway. Well, let's go ahead and rate it. I mean, we've talked all around it, and I think we both obviously have a warmth for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall is generally positive. I would say that for me, out of 5, we're not doing out of 7 or out of pi or anything crazy. Out
you go
of
to
5,
for that.
Out of 5, I would give The Invasion 4 out of 5. I would not give it a 5 out of 5, only for the only two things I have against it. First and foremost is the length. Mm-hmm. They could have shortened this sucker down to a 6-parter at most, possibly even a 4-parter.
I would go 6-parter.
And gotten away with, and it would definitely be a 5 out of 5.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It has so many things that redeem it from ending up being a 3 out of 5, and that is the acting, very clever writing, the idea that Tobias Vaughn has 2 offices that are identical.
That was brilliant.
Because they didn't want to build another set.
That was brilliant.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. I like that. So they get brownie points for those.
As a film student, I was just sitting there like, yeah, that's perfect.
Genius. It's genius. But yeah, but the length I have a problem with, and just a couple little things like that little editing thing there where they changed the death scene for the guy and all that. But I'm going to go a 4 out of 5.
Okay. I'm actually going to go a little higher and do a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
It was a little slow for me. I didn't mind the length because the first episode I was on was, well, the second episode I was on was War Games, and it's certainly not as long as that. But, I mean, I like the acting. I like the story. The first 3 parts were a bit slow for me up until, obviously, that elevator scene when things kicked up. But, you know, and I think it probably could have been shortened to 6 parts. But, I mean, I still thought it was a great Patrick Troughton story.
But War Games seemed to chug along a little.
It did. It chugged along a little bit more, and that's really what hurt this one a little bit, was that the first couple of parts for me were just really slow.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into them as much. And then, you know, in episode 3, it started to pick up.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, so 4.5 for you, 4 for me. So there you go.
One of the few times we disagree.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Now, let's go ahead and gotten to that lovely part of the show where we talk about DVD extras.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
Okay, this is, of course, a 2-disc set for anybody that's in the market to pick this up. There are 2 DVDs, 4 parts on one, 4 parts on the other, story-wise.
What I thought was interesting was that they actually split up the extras onto both discs. Mm-hmm. I was
good idea. I mean,
a little flabbergasted by that.
Well, because I guess the other route they could have gone is they could have gone and put maybe 8 parts on one disc and then put all the extras on the other disc.
I guess, but I don't know. I kind of like the way they did it. It was War Games did that too, and then they had the extra disc for everything else. At least I think so.
I think they did. Yeah, I think War Games did all the extras on one disc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, even still, I kind of liked it this way because it divided it up very neatly for me. I watched 4 parts, watched the extras, and then watched the next 4, watched the extras.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where are we starting on this?
Well,
then?
let's go ahead and start at the top with the first DVD extra, which is called Flash Frames.
Yes.
Flash Frames is a mini documentary discussing the animation of the Lost episodes and how they went about modeling the characters, animating the characters.
How the guy in charge of Cosgrove Hall used to walk around the halls as Patrick Troughton when they did reference.
Threw a coat on and sneak around the halls.
I just have that image of him like sneaking through the main hallway and them filming it.
Yeah, yeah.
Embedded in my brain.
What a job.
I know. I want a job like that.
I know. I do too. I never get to sneak where I work. So, I would say a very very interesting documentary, especially if you're like probably 99% of the fans that were just so excited about the concept of Lost episodes being animated. This gives you a little indication of how much work is behind it. Mm-hmm. So it gives you a better appreciation for what we have our hands on here.
Right.
The next documentary is called Love Off Air. And the title threw me a little bit because I thought that this was some sort of,
weird romance documentary.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what this was. But this is actually a documentary of the fans who, at the time that Doctor Who was airing on TV, were recording with their tape recorders the soundtracks.
Right.
And I remember doing this. I remember doing this when I was a kid for, I don't remember, I couldn't tell you what show. I remember that my father had an RCA tape recorder that was the size of, I'm trying to think now. It was probably about a foot long, a foot tall, and about maybe 6 inches thick.
Made of wood?
Weighed about 100 pounds. No. it was made out of concrete. And had those little birds in there from the Flintstones that would run on the little wheels. And so we put the tape
It's a living.
And exactly. And I remember using that to tape some shows before. I used to tape off the radio, too, if there was a song I liked, because we didn't have VCRs and things like that.
Right.
But these guys took this up like a half a notch. There were some guys that wired recorders right into their speakers on their TVs. But they do talk about recovering these recordings of these lost episodes and the sound engineers having to go in and remove family members making noise in the background, or, dad telling everybody to shut up, that kind of thing. And it's very, very intriguing, and it's a reminder that we owe these people an immense amount of gratitude for what they've, not only for doing it, but for holding on to the tapes.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because it's all we have. And the idea that we could ever maybe recover every lost Doctor Who episode.
There's at least audios for, I want to say, I don't know if it's all of them, but they're a good deal of them.
Pretty close. And at least the audio gives us the hope that we could maybe have animated recovery someday.
Yeah.
If we don't find any more live action. And the more time goes by, the less chance we are.
Right.
That's the reality of it. But so yeah, I mean, great documentary, and talks to some of the people who did it, some of their methods for doing it. You also get a real appreciation for how difficult it is for them to engineer that sound. And take like a bit from this track and a bit from this track, and try to recover.
Take the individual syllables from different recordings and
Yeah,
mash them up.
Did you see that? You had to do that for
for I think it was Underwater. No, it was some Patrick Troughton story.
Yeah, it was one of Patrick Troughton's stories. It had something to do with the Yeti. And it was a Victoria Waterfield was the companion.
Yeah. And
he said there was dialogue missing, and it was missing off the original video. It was just a blip, and so they went through and rebuilt it. And
it didn't sound that great to me, but
it didn't sound that great to me either. But
it's passable, so I have to give it to him.
Exactly. The next extra is animation trailers. This was something that came out on the web. I don't even remember if it came out on the web legally or if somebody leaked it out. Or what
I don't remember.
But I remember this trailer coming out, and people just went absolutely apoplectic. They were so excited because it was a trailer of, the Cybermen coming out of the sewers, and it was like, whoa, if this is what we're going to see, if this is the restored episodes of Invasion, bring it. It got everybody up into a lather. Quick. And so,
I think
exciting.
The reason they did that, not only for a trailer, was because the Cybermen don't show up until the very, very end of episode 4. And they were like, well, this isn't cool. We don't even get to animate them except for that one scene.
Yeah, I know they didn't get to animate a Cyberman, but
it's just they got to animate Vaughn going back out.
Back on. Yeah. And let's see, character design. It's basically like a photo gallery of the animated character designs.
On my notes, it looks like I tried to write something and ended up just doing the Prince symbol. I don't know what I did there.
The what symbol?
The symbol Prince used to go by.
Oh, okay.
The artist formerly known.
Yeah, when he changed his name,
I don't know what that is, but all side, I did like this one also.
Did you?
As much as I could. It's just a photo gallery.
Yeah, it's static images of, this is the doctor, 3/4 shot, front, side. Sticking his tongue out.
Yeah.
And, different things.
Raised eyebrows, furrowed eyebrows.
Yes. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about commentary. Okay.
I really want to listen to the commentary. I didn't get to, though.
You say that every episode of Who on Who.
No, I don't. I listen to the commentary mostly. I just kind of forgot this time.
Episode 1 commentary is recorded by Steve Marr, who is the animation director. James Gross, who is a producer at BBC, and Mark Ayres, who's the audio restoration guru. They do episode 1, and it's very interesting because they a lot of background on that particular animated episode. Episodes 2 through 8 are actually the commentary is done by Wendy Padbury, Fraser Hines, Nicholas Courtney. Which is awesome, and Chris, and I'm going to screw up his name. He was the production coordinator, and oh gosh, I'm sorry. It's the Oily John or it's D''OYLY-John. I wrote it down because when they said it so fast. And
Smith.
I'm going to call him Chris. The best part, hands down, of this commentary is to listen to them doing the commentary of episode 4, even if you're not a commentary fan, because it is Fraser Hines and Wendy Padbury and Nicholas Courtney's first glimpse of their animated counterparts. I get the impression that they didn't see anything, maybe some static images, but they never actually saw this until they sat down to do the commentary. And they were blown away.
Yeah.
More so when they saw the doctor on screen.
Yeah. Because
you could hear Fraser Hines saying, "My God, that's Pat. That's Pat." That's Pat right there. Look at his face. That's Pat. That's brilliant. And wow. You can clearly hear it in their voice. They miss him so much, and really, really special. If you're a commentary fan, even if you're not, it's well worth listening to that bit alone. The infotext is I would say right on par with infotext. There's nothing fantastic about it, but it's always enjoyable to turn it on, and there's some great little nuggets about this story. So that is definitely a cool thing, and that wraps up all the extras on the first disc.
Was that on the first disc?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
The second disc.
Evolution of Invasion is the first one I have.
Evolution of the Invasion. Awesome documentary.
Oh, yes.
This one is almost worth just buying the DVD set just for this.
Well, I wouldn't go that.
I would. I really, really thought I thought it was a great, great documentary. I found out things I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
This was the blueprint for the John Pertwee era, right here.
Really?
This was, oh yeah.
Oh,
so you need to go back and rewatch this.
Apparently, it's been a month.
This was essentially the pilot to see how the Doctor would, and this was before they knew that they were going to be recasting and doing all that, shitty color. But this was the pilot to cut costs. They wanted to bring the Doctor to Earth, so they brought Unit in. They started doing all these things. And it was a huge success. And so if this adventure had not gone off as well as it had,
right?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what would have happened with Pertwee's stories. I don't know if he would have been trapped on Earth or if we would have even had Doctor Who at that point, because they were suffering some serious, cost issues.
Yeah.
So, that was great. I mean, the talk about filming at the Guinness factory, the talk about the different actors. The guy that played Tobias Vaughn is like 96 years old in the documentary. Right?
Yeah, you just told me that before we started recording. I couldn't believe it.
And the guy that played Packer, they was in it too.
Who still looks like him.
He still does, yeah. The hair's white. He's put on a few more pounds. But
Packer can come back.
Sure. Oh, that'd be awesome. I could see Matt Smith saying it, Packer. But anyway, what was so funny was there was a little bit where they were talking about that. They were showing a clip where Vaughn just went completely freaked out, pounding his fist, yelling at Packer. One of a couple times that happened. And off camera is asking him, was I a little too rough with you there? And it's always funny to have the curtain pulled aside and kind of see what was really going on.
I always hear. I remember we were watching something, and it was John Pertwee talking about Roger Delgado.
Yeah, sweetheart,
and just talking about how nice of a man he was.
Mm-hmm. And very timid.
Yeah, and very timid. And I think a lot of that is that when you are playing a villain, you get to let all that anger and emotion out, and then you just become.
Yeah, I think so.
You just become a very sweet person.
I think they get to channel the dark aspects of their personality in that portrayal, and they kind of get to segregate that off, from their normal day to day. So I mean, they can live their day to day life, completely sweet, because they've already, like you said, they've already let that steam off.
Oh, exactly.
Exactly. I think you're right. Well, yeah, I think they were all of a certain caliber of acting talent.
Oh, definitely.
And we're having a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Apparently, there was a lot of laughter going on behind the scenes. We hear about it in documentary form, and we read about it in book form. We don't actually live it, or we hear it when they're recanting all this, like at conventions and stuff. We don't actually get to live it, but we sometimes gloss over the actual pace of filming, rehearsal.
I don't really, because I've done that. I've made student films.
Right.
I mean, it can be a lot of fun. It can also be very daunting.
Yeah, and I mean, these people were worked like dogs. I mean, this wasn't touched on in any documentary, so if anybody knows, here's a good question for feedback emails next time. Toward the end of this episode, Jamie gets a flesh wound. He gets shot in the leg. Remember?
Vaguely.
Okay. We don't see Jamie for the rest of that episode. We hear about him off camera not being allowed to walk and giving the doctor holy heck about that. We don't see Jamie until he gets out of the car at the cow pasture with the doctor and Zoe to go get in the TARDIS and leave. Again, that's it. We don't see him anymore. So, was Frasier on vacation? Was he passed out drunk? I don't know. If anybody knows, Frasier. I don't think he listens to the show. But
he's our number one fan, actually.
Cool.
He and Matt Waterhouse.
Yeah, there you go. I know. I feel bad because we kind of ripped Adric, when we were doing. I like Adric. I will still say that. Well, good. I do too. I think he had a lot of potential, and I think it was one of those characters that, just like I said before, wasn't fleshed out quite the way it could have been. But,
but that's another podcast.
But he's our first promo that we get.
Exactly.
And if he ever sits down,
he will always have a special place.
He'll be like, bastards. But he's coming to Gallifrey, so I hope to be able.
I'd love to meet him.
Say thank you to him in person.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, love this documentary. The other thing that I really, really loved is also on disc 2, and it's the 1993 VHS Links by Nick Courtney. Did you watch this?
I did, actually.
Okay, Nick Courtney, kicking back in the chaise lounge with that oversized book. What the heck was that?
What was he reading?
Oh, no.
I was like, is he reading the story of invasion?
He's reading the Gutenberg Bible. I mean, that thing's huge. And And so he's sitting there with this humongous book on his lap, and looking very suave, very debonair, and giving you the linking narration between what you've missed, episode 1 and episode 4, because of the time they hadn't been reconstructed. This was for the VHS release. A lot of fun. It really just was kind of fun, and it made me kind of chuckle when I was looking at the size of the book. Other than that, photo gallery. Unless you had something you wanted.
Not really. That was the last thing I put on extras.
And I didn't find any Easter eggs.
I don't think there are any.
I don't think there are.
I looked it up.
That was a little disappointing because, arguably episode 1 and episode 4, that's your Easter eggs, folks.
Exactly. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
We reconstructed an episode. There you go.
There you go. Right. But all in all, great extras, great discs. Good score, second Doctor story. For those of you...
Always good.
I'll tell you, for those of you listening, and I'm not sure there would be too many people listening who haven't watched the classic series, but if you have shied away from the black and white stories, and I've said this before, the second Doctor is just... He's great. He's so much fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And even fun to listen to in audio. I encourage you, especially if you like Matt Smith's Doctor. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to go into the whole comparison of, he's channeling Pat Troughton here and, Tom Baker here.
He's not really channeling Pat Troughton. They're very similar.
Yes, there's aspects of the 11th Doctor that you will recognize in the second Doctor that's more than just a bow tie. Okay, so it's
the same thing I said. It's the same thing I said with the 7th Doctor. There's a lot of similarities there also.
Yes,
in my opinion.
there are. Yeah, you're right. So that brings us to the end of DVD extras. Please stay tuned after this for a interview with Daniel Hall from To Entertain, and after that, we will be right back.
I hate computers and refuse to be bullied by them.
All right, everyone. This is David.
And Marty.
Marty, thank you. There you go. And we are here with Dan Hall, who is the commissioning editor for Classic Doctor Who with To Entertain. And Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
We got an email from you a few weeks ago, and you surprised us. We were delighted that you actually listened to our podcast, and so we've had a chance to talk a little bit, and we begged and pleaded with you, and you finally agreed to come on the show here and let us talk to you a little bit about the classic Doctor Who line of DVDs.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, good. Well, you say that now. We haven't asked you our questions
yet.
The
interview hasn't started yet.
So, Marty has prepared questions, and I'm going to let him run with this, and I'm just going to make pithy comments in the background. So, Marty, you go ahead.
Let's see. The first question we wrote down, what does a commissioning editor do?
It effectively means that I'm editorially and financially responsible for the classic Doctor Who range. So... It's at its least exciting. It is putting together the business cases for each release, because each release is its own business model. There's all sorts of internal BBC paperwork and managing that, making sure that gets done, making sure the right people are doing it at the right time, and then there's editorially deciding what goes in each release. So deciding working with the producers to decide how we want the documentaries to be, what documentaries are going to go on there. Then executive producing them, which effectively means I get delivered the content in rough stages throughout production, and I give notes and shape it, or to varying degrees depending on what it is. Some documentaries need more shaping than others, and then product. So effectively, it's just being answerable for it all, both to the consumer and to the BBC and to Entertain.
All right. So pretty high up in the food chain then.
There's I don't know how it works with food chains, but certainly if a release goes out and there's a mistake on it, or people hate it, or people suddenly stop buying it, it would be me that would lose my job.
Oh, I see.
They call that being sacked over there, don't they?
Exactly. I would be fired.
Well, okay. I have a question about that now. Not about the being fired part, but you intrigued me there with your comment that every release is its own case.
Yes.
Rather than, say, somebody coming to 2 Entertain or 2 Entertain coming to the BBC and saying, we want to tackle the entire classic Doctor Who range and treating that as one very large, unruly beast. Each individual DVD, as you release it, is its own separate set of issues and that sort of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Well, basically? 2 Entertain as a company, it's an interesting proposition because it's an offshoot of BBC Worldwide. So you should probably see in your old Doctor Who VHSs were released by a subsidiary called BBC Video. And that then grew into what became 2 Entertain. And so in a way, 2 Entertain is part of the commercial arm of the BBC anyway. So it's not, so the classic Doctor Who range is already owned by 2 Entertain. It's more just a matter of then each release within that working out how we do it. And when I say putting together a business case, it's not a business case to say, should we release this at all? I think it's no secret that the ambition of the range is to release as much as we can, to release the lot. What when I say about each business case is things like, how many do you think this is going to sell? How many do you think this is going to sell? How much does that mean we can invest in documentaries and that kind of thing? Because obviously different doctors have different popularities and stuff.
Now, so the potential for sales of an individual DVD, obviously that determines the amount of extras and the amount of things that will be on the disc?
Not necessarily. What we try to do is, depending on the producers that we use or the deals that I try to cut with the producers, we try to make sure that there maintains a consistent quality throughout all of them. And I think pretty much we succeed, actually.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Next question. How long have you been a Doctor Who fan?
Oh, good Lord. Well, I guess I kind of lost interest in Doctor Who when it went off air. So, I mean, I'm 37 years old now, and I got into Doctor Who when it had a repeat airing here in the UK in something called The Five Faces of Doctor Who. And it kind of, as a lot of my contemporaries did, we got into the show through that. So I kind of watched it for a few years, and then when it got axed here, I guess my interest just waned. And then, several years later, I was on holiday in Philadelphia. In fact, I was living there. And a friend of mine was working in a video store on Spruce Street. And I walked in and I just said, I feel a bit homesick. Have you got anything British I could rent out of your video store? And he said, you're British. He said, I like British things. I've got some of these Doctor Who VHSs here. Why don't you rent out this story? And I went into my air-conditioned apartment in, down near South Street and watched a 1984 Doctor Who story and just fell in love with it all over again. So that's kind of where it restarted. So I guess on and off since about 1981, I should think.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
You've lost a lot of street cred with our listeners. No, I'm just kidding. Some of them, I'm telling you, some of them come out of the womb Doctor Who fans. I mean, it just seems that way.
With the Tom Baker scarf and everything.
Yeah, they do. And, that's the umbilical cord for them. They come out with the Baker scarf. But, I'm with you. I mean, I didn't come into my Doctor Who fandom until, later in life. But that's an interesting story. And you lived here in America, too.
I lived in Philly for about, for about 2 or 3 months. And,
wow.
A wonderful, wonderful city, and I still love it immensely. But that was back in 94, I think. So yeah, it was as a result of an American video store worker that got me back into the show.
How ironic.
Okay. The next question. What is the projected date, or is there a projected date for all of the classic series that are available to be released?
We do have one, but sadly I can't comment on that. But the range is. Don't worry. A lot of people ask that, and it's a great question to be asked because it's nice that people have an interest, and we have very much got the schedule shaped right up to the end. So I was a little bit struck here in the UK how I felt that the schedule for the VHS releases sort of felt a little bit in the last couple of years like it was just, and here's the ones that no one wants. Let's just dribble them out. And I didn't want to do that again. I wanted there to be a sense of momentum, a sense of excitement. What I hope is that probably come about next year, people will start to be able to guess what stories are being kept for that really great last year, and I want the last year of releases to be a real smasher, as we say here.
You know, I think that, I think just about most Doctor Who fans, I would say 85 to 90%, and I'm probably being very conservative in my estimate, are completists. So whether they think the story is the best Doctor Who story ever or the worst Doctor Who story, they want it in their collection.
But what I love is that no Doctor Who fans can agree what those are, and that's what I love about
that's true.
The fandom is that you go and I go to a bar with some friends who are all Doctor Who fans, and within half an hour they're all arguing about what's the best and what's the worst one, and I love that, and I love when I release an unpopular story, and we always try to put documenters on that kind of say, hey guys, don't laugh at this. We have a bit of a think about it. And it's lovely to see people on the internet going, God, it's a lot better than I remember it being. Mm-hmm. And other people kind of going, I thought this everyone says this story's brilliant, but, it's not that good. It's so wonderful. No one ever agrees.
That is true.
All right. Next question. Have you guys ever considered Blu-ray as an option for releasing the DVDs?
Yes, absolutely. It's something that we are looking at the moment.
Okay. I know you're probably limited depending on how it was filmed. I was listening to Doctor Who Podshock, which is a much larger podcast than ours, and at one point, Louis Trapani, one of the hosts, was talking about the fact that, like, say, for instance, Spearhead from Space was done entirely on film. Mm-hmm. So it's more likely that something like that could be converted to high def than, say, something that was shot almost entirely on videotape at the time. So do you find that, and maybe you can't really go much into this, but do you find that there are going to be some titles that that's not going to work to put that on Blu-ray or anything high def?
I think it depends what you want the Blu-ray to do. I mean, one of the great things about Blu-ray that's not really been explored yet in the marketplace by, I think, any distributors is the additional space. The assumption is always that the additional space should be there to provide high definition quality pictures. But there's no reason why we couldn't use the additional space to provide standard quality pictures and just have far more data on there. Mm-hmm. Or maybe slightly better than DVD, so there's not MPEG artifacts on larger screens. So there's all sorts of options that we can explore, and absolutely, certainly, Spearhead is something that is something that we've been looking at. So I think it's certainly something that we've not got any particular plans at the moment, but on the other hand, it is something that we're aware of and we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Well, while you're talking about content. Let me just say for the record here that as Doctor Who fans, we recognize that the show that we love on classic DVD has more content per pound, if you will, than any other TV show that's released on DVD. And we are incredibly thankful for that. So let me just be one voice out of several thousand here in America to say thank you to 2 Entertain for doing everything that you do and putting, every nugget you can put onto these discs, because it's very much appreciated.
That's very kind of you, but equally I would say thank you back for a very loyal audience, because as you said, these guys we're generally completists, and that means that it's a much more secure model for us at this end, and allows us to look much more long term at projects and commission series like the Strip for Action series and stuff. So, it goes two ways. We're equally thankful for the loyalty from customers.
Yeah, I just got 3 new ones last night at my birthday party. I got the let's see, what did I get? I got the Horns and Iman. I got Mask of Mandragora.
Yeah.
and I got the Space Museum in Chase.
Yeah.
Set.
You're welcome.
So thank you. Yeah, because what I put on my, my wife makes me set up a birthday list. What do you want? So I write Doctor Who DVDs and then parentheses Ask Marty, because he knows what I have and what I don't have. So yeah, I got those, and so those will be coming up soon on the show if anybody's taking notes.
Yes.
So we're very excited. But yeah, it is a wonderful thing, to have these coming out. And you're right, it does allow Doctor Who fans to have a chance to look again at shows that they haven't seen for a long time. It gives us a chance to sit around and have a nice little chat about, hey, I just watched, we just watched The Invasion. And, so that it was nice to talk about over the dinner table or talk about with your friends. So it's a great thing.
Okay, the last question I have written down was just something I was curious about. I've noticed some episodes are available on iTunes, like the last John Pertwee episode, Planet of the Spiders. Planet of the Spiders are available on iTunes, in all 4 episodes, but there's no projected release date that I can find. I was just curious why that was.
There's been a lot of changes within the BBC commercial arm of the BBC as to who is what part of the company is working for what areas, and download to own, of which iTunes is part of, has been one of those areas. So we're just going through a little bit of state of flux at the moment, and examining some exciting new ideas that we're looking at for download to own in the classic Doctor Who area. So hopefully in the next I should hope in the next 2 or 3 months there'll be some updated news on that.
Great.
Okay.
Now, speaking of John Pertwee,
yes,
we were talking about him. His first story, Spearhead from Space. I have the DVD, and there's another one I have. I think it's Vengeance on Varos, a 6-Doctor story.
Mm-hmm.
And the extras on it are very minimal, but To Entertain was not attached at that time, I think, when the discs.
No, we didn't exist at that time.
Okay, all right. And and maybe, again, this is maybe something, I feel so bad because there's probably a lot of things you have to keep very close to the vest here. So, feel free to just say, I'm sorry, I can't talk about it, which you already have, which is fine. But is there any thought to re-releasing those stories now that you have control of them, so that you can add some of the things that Doctor Who fans have come to expect from their DVDs?
That is something at the moment I'm afraid I can't comment on.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, let me ask you this, because I know that you oversee distribution for the UK and then also over here for Region 1. And of course, our distribution is a little bit different. You and I actually spoke about this off air yesterday when we talked. But what percentage of the sales of Doctor Who DVDs are attributed to the homeland, to UK, and then over here to America and, let's say, other countries?
Well, the other main territory that I have is Australia and New Zealand. So really, the North America and the Australia and New Zealand areas are our main international territories outside of the UK. I would love it if I could get if I could sell Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who into China. That's the market to crack. But at the moment, I would say probably it depends on what Doctor. The Doctor does make a big difference because I think in America there's less of an awareness of pre-Tom Baker Doctors. And right. And I would imagine that that's reflected in our sales. But I would kind of think as a good guesstimate, maybe 25% of each title's sales come from ex-UK, probably.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. That's a smaller percentage than I expected. I guess my follow-up question to that is, has the new series, and I know we're not going to talk a lot about the new series, but has the existence of the new series done anything to classic series Doctor Who sales? Oh,
absolutely. I think that just by the shared history, it's the new series is such a tremendous adventure. It really is, and it's oh man, the latest series, I loved it, and it was people are going to go into the shops, aren't they? And they're going to go, hey, that Matt Smith and Karen Gillan, they're cool, and then they see this other box and go, wow, that's also called Doctor Who. I'll grab some of those. So absolutely, we've had what we call a halo effect and seen some rise in sales, and I'm sure a lot of that is attributable to how entertaining and how great the new series is. Absolutely.
Well, in this last series specifically, there were several nods to the past. We saw images of all the past Doctors more than once. So I would hope that if that trend continues, that will continue to benefit the classic Doctor Who line as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, another question for you. Marty and I just finished reviewing the Patrick Troughton story. Yeah, The Invasion, the Patrick Troughton story. And it's a unique story in to Doctor Who fans and in the classic Doctor Who DVD line because the two missing episodes were animated. And, of course, Doctor Who fans went nuts when that came out. And, we love it. So the logical question here is to entertain looking at all at doing this with other stories, or is it too cost prohibitive like we've heard from other sources?
I think animation by its very nature is very expensive. I don't think anybody's surprised to hear that. It's a very costly thing to do. But on the other hand, the Invasion was such a wonderful creative success. I mean, it was a stunning release. I've got to say for the record that I can't take any credit for the animation at all. It was commissioned from within the BBC, and it was produced. And as far as I'm aware, it was the brainchild of a producer called James Goss, who is a tremendous guy. Who some of you will recognise his name on some of the documentaries as well, because he does some really lovely kind of quirky documentaries for us. So I thought the Invasion was absolutely tremendous, and ever since we did it, really, it's something that. I've been consistently looking at how we can do another one, how we can, is there a way that we can do another one? It's a shame we haven't yet found a way that we could do it. But that, it's such a good idea, and it was so beautiful that I'm not going to stop trying to find a solution and trying to find a way to make it happen. So, I mean, there's nothing particular different to report except to say, it's something that we are still looking at. And I don't mean that in a kind of rubbish, we think about it every 6 months when we get around a table. It really is something that we're constantly thinking about and constantly working to try to make happen. So, yeah, let's all keep our fingers crossed.
Definitely. Well, I think, we know that, we fans who aren't involved in the actual process, obviously, we sit around going, wow, that would be awesome. And so as a Doctor Who fan, when you put that hat on, you can sympathize with us. So I think that, I understand where you're coming from. It's one of those things like, yeah, wow, this would be really cool. It's unfortunate, that we can't align all the stars to do this, but, that's, perhaps something for down the road. One of the things, speaking of Doctor Who fans, that I was able to partake in, and you've probably heard me talk about this on the podcast, is I went to my first Doctor Who convention last year, which was Gallifrey 21 in Los Angeles, California, and it was last February. And while I haven't officially booked yet, I think Marty and I are going this year. Have you ever been to an American Doctor Who convention? I hear they're quite different from the British ones. I
have never been to an American one. It sounds rather exciting. February is actually my birthday month. So,
no better way to party than with a bunch of fans. Yeah.
What was it like? Did you go? You didn't go together. Marty and I couldn't. Did he? And
Marty wasn't actually actively doing the podcast with me at the time. It was really while I was there at Gallifrey talking to other podcasters and sort of seeing the benefits of having a co-host, that I came back and begged and pleaded with him and threatened to throw him out on the street if he didn't do it. So,
he pays me in installments to do the podcast now.
I do. And, anyway, but yeah, it was wonderful. It was, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I talked to people who go every year, and, they've started, it's a wonderful term that I've heard picked up, and I apologize because I don't remember who coined this, but somebody called it their same time every year friends. And it's a great idea because I mean all these people were just so warm, welcoming. You've got 1,500 people in the LAX Marriott hotel, and everything you could possibly think of, from a dealer's room to there's celebrities there, doing autographs and hanging out at the bar, and there's panels, there's discussions, there's screenings, there's cosplay. I don't know. Do you know what cosplay is?
I don't. What is it?
Okay, cosplay is well, Marty, you explain it because you come from an anime. Yeah, you've done it, and you come from an anime background.
Basically, it's cosplay is an unofficial Japanese term. It's costume play. It's where people dress up in costume and act like the character they're dressed up as. Or
then.
It's more to express the appreciation of the character, but it's just an excuse to dress up in costume.
I'd like to go as a really cranky character, so I could just walk around being just really nasty to everyone.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting is you're walking down in the lower level of the LAX Marriott. I'm walking around and went and got my picture taken in front of the TARDIS, and you don't even think twice when a full-size Dalek just goes buzzing down the hall past you, and it's talking like the Dalek and it's doing everything. And there was a guy.
But do they speak with American accents? Do these Daleks speak with American accents?
No. They talk. They sound like Nick Briggs. Sounds like somebody, and he was there. It sounded like somebody grabbed Nick Briggs and stuck him in the can and said,
"They probably did.
Do the voice. Do the voice."
Microphone.
They may have. I don't know. But there was a guy. His name is Kevin Copa. I hope I pronounced that right. And I met him there. He could be David Tennant's twin brother, and it was shocking because he was walking around in the orange spacesuit from one of the episodes. And I walked up to him. I said, "Can I get my picture taken with you?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And I started asking him, I said, "How'd you get into this?" He said, "Well, I didn't even know anything about Doctor Who or who this guy was. And my friends kept saying, 'You look like this guy. You look like this guy.'" And I've got a picture of him up on my Facebook photo album for Gallifrey. And he really, really does.
Yeah, I've seen the picture. It's bizarre.
And,
he does look like David Tennant.
They did this they do this masquerade every year where they have a contest and people go up and, show off their wares, because all of these costumes are homemade. Everything. I mean, everything, every detail is homemade. So it is phenomenal what these people, the time and the effort they put into these things.
Some costumes are really good, and some of them are kind of.
I don't know that I saw a dodgy costume, and there was some pretty.
I've been to a lot more conventions though. I've seen some dodgy costumes, and I've seen some like, whoa, how'd they do that costumes?
Yeah, well, and some really interesting ideas. Like they had a couple of women there were dressed in female versions of a couple of the different doctors. There was a woman there dressed like the Sixth Doctor, and she had the like the hoop skirt with the parasol, but it was all the colors of the Sixth Doctor's costume.
Oh, that sounds good. I always really liked Romana's outfit, that kind of pink version from Destiny of the Daleks.
Tom Baker.
I thought that idea of a kind of feminized coloring of a full Dr. Carter was always great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they did this big skit with the Brigadier at the end, which you can actually find on YouTube, and it's hysterical. And it's look for Gallifrey 21. And I guess probably the Brigadier.
Yeah.
And, you'll laugh. I mean, it is so funny. And they have representatives of almost all the doctors up on stage and interacting with this guy who's dressed like Nicholas Courtney. And it's very, very well done. So it's just yet another aspect of a phenomenal weekend with a lot of Doctor Who fans and people who are, involved with the production of various aspects of Doctor Who, like, books and comics and audios and on Big Finish, a lot of people there. And, but yeah, it was a blast. So if you ever do get to come, it'd be a great way to celebrate your birthday.
Absolutely. I'll bring along some exclusives with me. Maybe do some screenings or something. It sounds quite good fun.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be.
And there's a lot of podcasters there, so you might get attacked.
I'll have to get you guys to look after me.
Yes, we will watch your back, because most of them are kind of shady. But
walking around with rounders bats.
yeah. We learned about rounders, so that we know what that is now. I was calling Ace's bat a baseball bat, and
apparently
so I was
rounders
corrected that it was a rounders bat. So, because I asked why she didn't carry a cricket bat. So.
Well,
Oh, well.
Yes, you were talking about that on your podcast, weren't you?
Yes. And so we did get some responses that we're reading on this episode here with the invasion.
Yeah, because I think it would be pretty. When I was listening to that, I was just thinking, I don't know if he's ever held a cricket bat because they're quite difficult to swing.
Are they tough? Are they
well,
really heavy?
It's just that they're really awkward. They're quite long. You know, I mean, I don't know cricket that well, but they kind of come up to about halfway up your thigh, and they're not designed to be swung in that way that your bat things are that you have in your sports. I'm not that sporty.
That's all right. So yeah, isn't the ball is bowled? So I mean, it's got to be at least shin high or lower. I would imagine it's not coming at you at your waistline. So yeah.
No, that's not a good idea.
Okay. All right. So I learned so much, and that's why I like doing this. But. All right. Well, Marty, do you have any other questions for Dan?
Not anything I can think of.
Okay.
I know we're going to sign off. I'm going to think of everything.
I know. But okay, that brings up a good point. Dan, would you be willing to come back?
I'd love to. I'd absolutely love to. This has been a great experience.
Well, we would love to have you back anytime, especially for juicy exclusives, but anytime you want to come back. We may even get you to come on and review a show with us sometime. But we'll give you plenty of warning ahead of time before we do that. So.
That sounds like it would be absolutely tremendous.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. Nice guy.
All right, that brings us to a close of episode 27 of Who on Who. As always, you can find Marty and I on Facebook on our Who on Who page. Mm-hmm. You can also follow me on Twitter at www.twitter.com/DavidHuey. You can also email us, please.
Yes.
Feedback.
It was nice getting as much as we've said about this pile of email. It was nice getting feedback. It feels like people love us.
It does, and we need that.
Yes.
We
very insecure.
Well, your insecurities are totally my fault. I don't know who I'm going to blame for mine, but that's a different story altogether.
It's a whole other podcast.
Yes, that's a whole other podcast. Dr. Phil, write in and help us out. Anyway, yes, thank you all again for your time and just for listening to us. We appreciate you as always. Mm-hmm. Again, the email is feedback@whoonwho.com. Drop us a line. Let us know what you think. Next time, we're going to be talking about the Daleks.
Yes, in the very first Daleks.
The very first Daleks.
Yes.
It was just some guy with a plunger sticking out of a garbage can on a tricycle. Very crude, but effective.
Yes.
Effective enough.
Scary monster.
We are excited, and we are looking forward to doing that. And until next time, everyone, just thank you very much. Take care.